apropos of that conversation about what would be different if Mike Pence were there. Now, there is a game that is being played by people like Joe Scarborough and sort of independent Republican conservative types, that what Donald Trump is somehow fundamentally different from the Never Trumpers. And here is Joe Scarborough talking to, what's his face, Meacham. Jon Meacham.
What's his face, Meacham, actually. His name has been changed.
On Donald Trump's saying that had Andrew Jackson been around, he wouldn't have had anything to do with this Civil War thing, which I think he's getting a lot more grief about placing Jackson improperly. I think, as I read it, he said, like, he didn't like the talk of a Civil War, and if he had been around, he would have said no. But listen to this discussion, because the idea of questioning Abraham Lincoln as to whether or not there needed to be a Civil War, if he had only done something, because we've had libertarians on this very show, I'm convinced, who have said, like, maybe you could have just bought the slaves and set them all free, right? Like,
Daryl Perry calls him the tyrant Lincoln.
Right, because, and we'll talk about that. But the idea that this is like, we've never heard this kind of questioning of Lincoln and why there had to be a Civil War. I mean, you'd have to almost go like 5 years ago or 4 years ago to hear people regularly talking about it. Here we go.
President of the United States who says, hey, nobody's ever asked the question, why did we have a Civil War? Is, again, I know of no adult in my 54 years of living that would ever come close to uttering that question.
You know, it's a projection of the president's fundamental and enveloping narcissism. Because he believes, he told me a year and a half ago or so, a year ago, that, you know, he thought he could have done a deal to have averted the war. You know, it's like the scene from The Tempest where Miranda comes out and says, "Oh, brave new world that has such people in it," and her father says, "'Tis new to thee." You know, he's in an enforced, you know, as Doris knows, the presidency itself enhances your fundamental characteristics. It's very hard once you're there to change. Some people do, and that's why we talk about them as great presidents. But most people, once they're in the Oval Office, actually just become more like themselves. And I think in this case, that's on a potentially tragic trajectory.
But this idea, and all of this is true, but this idea, I mean, if you Google Lincoln should have bought slaves, you will see people from like Ta-Nehisi Coates arguing that he couldn't have bought all the slaves. I mean, or that Jon Stewart said that he did try and purchase some slaves in a debate with Judge Napolitano, right? Are we starting to see like a
little bit of a pattern?
Remember Judge Napolitano? Yeah. I mean, this was, and up until apparently 2 days ago, a talking point of the right in this country, that Lincoln really wanted a Civil War. He didn't try to avert it because this was all about attacking the South. And they could have just paid to buy the slaves. And I mean, this is a talking point. They're ignoring it. I mean, of course, you know, Donald Trump, I think, was arguing like, I could have worked it out.
Maybe if the slaves were freed, I would have been phone tapped.
But the concept that it could have been worked out in some other fashion has been a ongoing talking point on the right for years. And people are pretending like that has not been the case.
Do you really think that Joe Scarborough, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he came to Congress in the Gingrich class, the Gingrich Revolution, and by the way, doesn't Newt Gingrich write like historical revisionism novels? Like, hey, here's a thought. What if the South won? What if the Nazis won? What if,
How much better would it have been?
I mean, wait, did I say that? He was in cloakrooms in Congress with guys who got elected to, like, let pharma reps write health care bills and then, like, pass a flag amendment and demonize black people and gay people. And he never, ever in his adult life heard, maybe the South might have won
Right.
Might have been okay. Is it too optimistic to wonder if this is Trump pushing the Republicans around a corner they needed to turn?
What do you mean?
Like, now that Joe Scarborough has to act like that, even asking that question is crazy like
But
Trump.
that's
Oh, so are they
Scarborough.
actually going to,
No.
is this going to reform them? I see.
No.
I see what you're saying.
No, that's Scarborough's. That's
good-
Scarborough's unique needs as a serious pundit now, who like doesn't have temper tantrums at his girlfriend on here.
Right. That is. Hey, folks, the Majority Report YouTube page is in a bit of a crisis right now because of changes in their algorithms. Our YouTube revenue has been clobbered. We need your help. Just a couple of bucks a month would really help us out and keep this channel going. Head over to our Patreon page to find out more information. It's the URL is right here.